But first, meet a psychologist who tries to discover why people sometimes abandon their sense of right and wrong. He learns firsthand just how easy it is.
Stanford, California. 9 students are arrested, handcuffed, and locked up in a correctional facility like no other in America. Here, psychologist Phil Zimbardo is beginning a groundbreaking 2-week experiment.
Now, these may look like ordinary faculty rooms. They're not. This is prison. You're gonna be the guards.
There he is. There he is.
Zimbardo believes his experiment can explain the causes of brutality in prisons.
Zimbardo was aware that there were serious problems in American prisons. There had been complaints about living conditions, there had been riots, and he suspected it was actually in the relationship between the guards and the inmates. That's where the problem was.
Volunteer college students are divided into the roles of guards and prisoners.
Now, I want to be absolutely clear that the roles assigned have been done so at random. Any one of you could have been the prisoners, and any one of them could have been you. And as for me...
Zimbardo himself will take on the role of prison superintendent.
Pretty mean, huh?
The prisoners are processed, just like real convicts.
The inmates would get picked up by the police, they would get booked in, they would be given new clothing, they would be given prison numbers.
Quick as you can, please.
All participants have undergone personality tests to screen out anyone with psychological problems.
Do not laugh at the stocking on your head.
Zimbardo monitors the experiment on security cameras.
Prisoners are to wear the given number badges at all times. They are never to be removed. Prisoners must address each other by number. Prisoners must address guards as Mr. Correctional Officer.
The Zimbardo prison experiment is one of the most important psychology experiments of the 20th century. It sought to find out how quickly people would embrace roles in a hierarchy, particularly related to prisons.
Zimbardo makes daily records of his experiment.
The plan is to strip away their individuality, to allow them to behave according to the stereotypes of guard and prisoner. Even on day 1, we are seeing profound changes in behavior.
In the small hours, guards test the limits of their power over the prisoners.
Funny, 043? All right. Give us all a laugh. Don't say it. Sing it. Go on. 043, Mr. Correctional. All that singing. On the floor. Give me 20.
Whoa, Frank, we got something.
Without instruction from Zimbardo, the guards are developing their own punishments.
1, 2, 3.
By inventing the singing test, the guards were using their imagination to come up with situations in which the prisoners were sure to fail, giving them an opportunity to exert and even to enjoy their power over the prisoners.
It is their first hint of creative evil.
4, 5.
Just 1 day in and already they are taking on the typical roles: abusive guards, docile prisoners.
8, 9, 10.
By the second morning, students playing prisoners show signs of resentment.
Prisoners have rebelled. Hunger strike.
Hey, 043. Eat your goddamn deal.
Some guards respond by ripping the prisoners' bed sheets through thorn bushes outside. The guards' dominance over the passive inmates is becoming entrenched.
A situation like this can actually be exaggerated by the chemicals in your brain. The guards would have felt like they won because they were at the top of the hierarchy. And when a man wins, his testosterone levels increase, making him more competitive and aggressive. But the prisoners would have actually experienced the opposite. In a fearful situation, the stress hormone cortisol would have led to them feeling more passive and risk-averse.
All right, everybody in the
Within
cell.
48 hours, the mental abuse becomes physical.
Just an experiment, man.
They have to put him in the hole.
Get in that cell or you get
I'm not sure. No. Listen. From the guard's point of view, this makes perfect sense. They have to make an example or they lose control. This is exactly what goes wrong in prisons. We crack this, we end prison abuse.
just an experiment, man. You can't say that. That's against the rules. You're in big trouble, 7359. Come on. 7359. Get your hands up!
Zimbardo and the guards devise a way to discipline defiant prisoners. A tiny closet with no light they call the hole.
Solitary confinement is a common disciplinary procedure, but the hole was something different entirely, because it involved not only social isolation, but the isolation from sight as well.
Zimbardo uses his power over the prisoners to divide them and gain control.
7924 says he can't take it and wants out.
What are you gonna do?
I made him an offer. I get the guards off his case. He acts as my eyes and ears inside. Lets me know what the others are planning.
Hey, man, you're back. What happened? They won't let me out, man.
Like a real prison, inmates resent being told what to do. 7924 ignores the superintendent's offer.
7924 has now returned to the prison, but he started shouting that I won't let them out.
You're kidding. We really can't leave?
Zimbardo's experiment has become a real prison.
Man, this is what I signed up for. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a
Keep singing, damn it.
wretch like me.
After 3 days, Philip Zimbardo's psychology study is taking on a life of its own.
Did I give you permission to stop?
Some students playing the role of guards aggressively dominate the students playing inmates. And Professor Zimbardo is taking his own role as prison superintendent very personally.
Last night when I got back to the prison, the guards had released 7924, my snitch. He was screaming and crying. They sent him home. Now he's been spotted hanging around by the faculty. Is he gonna grab a bunch of friends and trash the experiment? Is this a jailbreak?
Frank. Yeah, tell the guards to move the prisoners. No, I think 7924 is going to cause trouble. What? I'll tell them it's for their own safety.
Zimbardo waits, practicing what he will say when people come to break up his experiment.
Look, there's nothing going on here. Experiment's over. The kids have gone home. I told you there's nothing going on here. Listen to me, damn it.
This is a prison.
This is a science department.
By evening, Zimbardo realizes no one is coming. The prisoners are returned to their cells.
Zimbardo cast himself in a major role in the experiment. This was a real mistake because he embraced that role just as quickly as these kids embraced the roles of inmate and guard. And he began to act like a prison warden instead of like a psychologist.
By day 4, the experiment is out of control. Zimbardo doesn't see it that way.
Guys, you got about 3 seconds to get...
After just 4 days, we have verbal abuse,
physical abuse, hunger strikes, divide and rule tactics, sexualized bullying. The experiment is a tremendous success.
I wanted to come in here and talk to you guys.
Zimbardo creates a parole board to hear the prisoner's concerns.
With the way things are going, I'd like to leave if I can, please.
He brings in his girlfriend, psychologist Dr. Christina Maslach, as a member of the board.
Come on, out your cell, you bunch of ladies. Move it! 1, 2, 1, 2, I haven't got all day. Right, stop there. Stop.
Maslach tours the prison and sees the conditions firsthand.
Hey, Chris, check this out. You know, you're not the first person to go down there. Dr. Ziegler's been, we've had a priest, a lawyer.
I don't care if everyone in the world thinks this is okay. What you are doing to those boys is wrong.
What I'm doing?
Yes. Phil, you're in charge here. This is your show. Those boys, they're scared and they're humiliated, and you just sit here like everything's okay? Those guards, those kids in uniform, they have lost their moral compass, and so have you.
I'm trying to run a prison, Chris. You think that's easy? It's not easy.
You're not a prison warden. You're a psychologist, and you're running an experiment.
So the Stanford Prison Experiment went terribly out of control. And yet there's some really important learning messages in this study. One of the most important messages is that it wasn't just the sadism of the bad guards that's so impressive, it was the complicity of the good guards. And there are echoes throughout history in situations where people are incarcerated that are just like this. For example, in Abu Ghraib, where you had guards who weren't all that well trained, who embraced this sort of role almost brutally, and then behaved in ways that were pretty unconscionable.
Here it is, sir, 43. There's your breakfast. Let's see you eat it.
I don't want it. Hey, come on, eat the oatmeal. What's the matter? You don't like oatmeal? Everybody!
I have an important announcement to make, so listen up. Experiment is over. You're free to leave.
In social psychology experiments, it's critically important that the investigator keep some distance from the experiment. And Zimbardo's big mistake was that he didn't do that.
The experiment was planned to last 14 days. It is called off after only 6.